When does an urban legend become more than just a story? What's up, Rad Fam? In collaboration with Mortis Media, in this video we're covering 5 terrifying encounters with skinwalkers that are claimed to have really happened. So let's get to it. Every summer, my family and I go up to camp in Dedham, Ellsworth, Maine. It's about a 3-hour drive from my house. The camp itself is about an hour from the nearest town, so it's pretty secluded. I've been going to this camp my entire life because my family owns it, and have never had an incident like this happen before. I was watching TV in the middle of the night. Both of my brothers and my parents had already gone to bed. I heard a noise coming from the kitchen and realized that the dogs needed to go outside to do their business. So I took the dogs outside after turning on the porch light. I walked around to the front yard and I let the dogs off the leash. It's so incredibly dark in the woods in Maine that the porch light really only illuminated the porch and nothing else. So I tried to keep an eye on them. I was momentarily distracted when I saw a loon, which is a wild bird, on the lake. When I looked back, I saw that 2 dogs were both looking at something in the woods. I couldn't see what it was myself, but I assumed they had seen a squirrel or maybe a raccoon. It was then that I realized I didn't see Alfie, the 3rd dog, anywhere. She's an awfully small dog and she's completely black. I called for her a few times and heard some soft whimpering right where the dogs had been looking. I took a couple steps in that direction and called her name again, worried that she may have gotten her paw stuck between the rocks or had gotten stuck in a snake hole. Suddenly, I felt something moving behind me. I whipped around and looked down, and it was Alfie. She'd been staying close to me the whole time, I just hadn't seen her. So naturally, I was thinking, if Alfie is here, what the fuck was in the woods? I took another step forward and the 2 dogs began to growl. They were slowly advancing and were now on either side of me, looking right into the blackness of the woods. I quickly picked up Alfie and began to back up very slowly. I'm not sure what I thought was there, but there are lots of animals in Maine and I figured the dogs knew better than I did, since obviously I couldn't see a thing. Right as I turned around, I heard the most absolutely bone-chilling thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Coming from the direction of the woods, I heard something or someone call Alfie's name. It sounded almost as if it was trying to mimic me in some sort of way, but it was just wrong. The voice sounded really distorted and it almost seemed to wail. Safe to say, I freaked the fuck out and ran inside with the dogs. I have no idea what was out there in the woods. My camp is essentially a log cabin overlooking a lake, and our nearest neighbor, who is also a family member, lived half a mile in the opposite direction of where that thing was.
This is my cousin's story. He is a combat medic for the Mississippi National Guard, and he told me that he saw something out in the woods on a field training operation, in a kind of mini war game. So there were 2 platoons per company, and 2 companies per team. His camp set up northwest of Yellow Creek, and the enemies set up just south of a farm off Waynesboro, Shibuya, east of Waller Ridge Road. The training exercise started at midnight, and his platoon commander decides he may as well send out a recon group to scout out a good ambush position, or at the very least figure out what the enemy company is up to. So my cousin's squad sets off north, following some dirt trails but keeping off the side just in case they run into an enemy patrol. So by about 2:30, they're about 500 meters away from the enemy camp, slinking around a marsh, which puts them in clear sight through a power line cutout through the woods. So the marksman pulls out his binoculars to check if the way is clear, and upon glancing, just goes white and freezes. He pulls his binoculars down from his face and is stood there, visibly terrified. A couple of seconds later, the sergeant pulls him back to the tree line and asks him what the hell he's doing just standing there. The marksman just manages to stammer out, There's something down there. It ain't human. It ain't human. Everyone stood there in shock for a few seconds, before some of the others decided to check for themselves. What they see was described to me as a 7 to 8 foot tall furry thing, as if you took a coyote and put it on a stretching rack with matted white or grey fur and what looked like dried blood all over its chest. Its hind legs were 11 kinds of messed up, incredibly long and slender, with knees backwards. The thing was just standing out in the open, sniffing around as if it was trying to track something down. So the sergeant radios the sighting to Company HQ and gets back. He tells everyone to get the hell out of there and keep your heads down and keep off the roads. Games are off. So his squad get the hell out, and the marksman, who at this point has finished having his panic attack, checks again, this time with his scope rather than binoculars, and the squad hurries back to Company HQ. When they get back to HQ, it is a sight to behold. Mounted patrol vehicles that were not there before are storming around the camp. Spotlights scanning the tree line and comms are going crazy, with people claiming that they'd also seen stuff in the woods. Another platoon had to be called to secure the area, with double the amount of men. There were no training exercises for the rest of the month, and an official order to, and I quote, "keep it quiet and not tell anyone, not even your family," had been put into order, which needless to say my cousin promptly ignored. To this day, he's pretty convinced that it was a skinwalker.
It was the 4th of July. A few of my friends wanted to actually do something instead of just lounging around in front of our computers like we do every day. There were 5 of us. Me, Neil, Elijah, JD, and Neil's sister, Katie. Neil had the idea to go to his grandparents' house as they owned a farmhouse. We live in Texas, so having that much space, especially with other houses being half a mile out, was the perfect place to pop fireworks without getting into much trouble. The drive from where we lived to their house was about a 40-mile drive. Unfortunately, the only car we had at our hands was a 2-door, so trying to fit 5 of us into one car was hectic, to say the least. The drive was actually pretty tolerable. 3 of my friends in the back found a comfortable yet funny position to sit in the car. The music Katie was playing was helping a lot and definitely passed the time. We all bought some fireworks halfway there, and my friends jumped back into their designated positions for another 20 miles. As we got there, Neil forgot to mention that his grandparents were out of town for the week, which made the experience ahead of us even better. All of us got out of the car except for Katie, who suggested she get us all food and soda for the night. She kept the fireworks in the back because she didn't want us popping anything while she was gone, which was pretty understandable. She then drove off and all of us were left without fireworks, so we did the next best thing. We went to the pool in the back. Something that already put me off was that the ranch sat considerably close to a forest. Neil even went the extra step to tell me that there's the occasional wolf that can be a hassle to deal with. Of course, I got nervous because I had nothing to defend myself with if one jumped over the fence. He handed me his pocket knife, saying that there's a shotgun in the living room if something were to go wrong. He mentioned that he was going to set up a game of Risk for all of us to play while Katie was out, as the drive to the closest market was well over a couple of miles away. So Elijah and I sat poolside, telling stories to each other about stupid stuff that happened while we were in college. During our talk, I was staring out in the forest line, paranoid about the aforementioned wolves that Neil teased me about. Then I saw something move. I couldn't quite tell since the porch light behind me was making it harder to see any details, but the way it moved made my heart jump. Elijah could see my body language change as I leaned in to see what was there. He started to ask me what I saw, and I replied with a wolf on the tree line. He looked towards where I pointed and he calmed down.
That's just Katie, dude. I think she's just trying to scare us.
He started calling her name, waving his arms and laughing as he did so, saying how she scared the hell out of me. Then Neil came out of his house, wondering what Elijah was screaming about. Then he saw his sister standing in the field. He started to laugh when Elijah told him what happened and how I was on the edge of my seat. JD came out of the house next, and Neil told him to help Katie with the bags. Katie, who was out in the field, started to wave back, but the wave definitely seemed out of place. It wasn't so much waving, but a sudden jerk, like you were trying to pop your elbow back into place. Elijah yelled for Katie to come back so we can start the party, but JD came back with a terrified look on his face.
Katie's not back yet. I just called her. She's still on the road towards Walmart.
Their laughing suddenly stopped, and Elijah's face faded, and his arms fell onto his lap with a thud. Everyone looked at the still jerking figure in the field. Then she screamed. The scream was so loud, it sounded like it may as well have been a couple feet in front of us. All of us scrambled, running back into the house, slamming the door behind us. Neil shouted for all of us to lock the doors and to grab the shotgun in the living room. I ran to grab his shotgun as it was the closest thing to us, while the other two ran to each of the doors leading outside. Quickly, I grabbed the shotgun and stuffed a couple shells into my pocket, running back to the kitchen where we came in from and handed the gun to Neil. I pulled out the shells and set them on the counter, and he loaded one in. JD came back nearly covered in sweat, freaking out and shouting,
"What the fuck was that?"
Just as scared as he was, I looked at both of them, Elijah quickly joining us again.
"You don't think it was a skinwalker, do you?"
I read the stories. I've seen them all over the internet and in creepypastas. JD tried reassuring us.
"No, it can't be. That was Katie. I'm sure she's just trying to scare us." "Cut the bullshit, JD. That scream was not human. You already called her and you told us she said she was still going out."
He turned back to the door, pushing the blind slightly to find that Katie was now closer to us. It stood at the gates of the pool, illuminated by the light and revealing to us something that didn't look much like Katie at all. The hair was a mess and the clothes looked tattered. Her skin was bruised. The one thing that caught our eye the most was her face. The head was tilted, like it struggled to support its weight. The eyes were blank with emotion, and the jaw was agape. It raised an arm, jerking like it did before in a mock wave. The jerking, however, started to get more violent, and the entire body started to shake uncontrollably. Neil quickly closed the curtains and backed off. He ordered us to sit back behind the counter. He set himself in the gap leading into the kitchen, gun aimed at the door. It was silent for what felt like an hour. The three of us continued to look at Neil, who was completely focused on the door. A massive, grotesque smell entered our noses, and all of us reacted appropriately. The horrid stench was like if you left groceries to ferment in a box in the summer heat with a couple of carcasses as garnish. It was definitely hard to breathe, tasting the smell in the back of your throat. It was so bad, JD actually ended up throwing up. Then, without any warning, the smell was gone. The hot air that was the smell went away, and it was much easier to breathe. I was afraid to let go of my nose, but was rewarded with a breath of fresh air when I did. Everyone took a couple of breaths to rid their lungs of the pungent smell that lingered beforehand. Neil asked us if we were okay, and we all replied, JD being an exception since he had just puked. We heard what sounded like a whine. It sounded like a mix between a dog and a child about to cry. It wasn't coming from the porch door, but from the front where we came in from the car. All of us stood up, Neil moving forward while we stayed back. We knelt down by the stairs, still hearing this whining. It didn't hit me until we positioned ourselves, but it sounded like something was trying to talk for the first time, like an animal. In a raspy but still high-pitched voice, I could make out a very small portion of what it was trying to say. It kept repeating this until it started to sound more enunciated, more human.
What the fuck was that?
It sounded like JD. Same accent, same speech pattern, same voice. JD started to shiver. His breath was getting shallow. He shouted back in a scared voice I had never heard come out of his mouth until now.
"Get out! Leave us alone! Get the fuck out!"
Leave us alone! Get out!
The last words that we heard were in the same scream we heard when we saw it initially. It started to pound on the door, not like it was trying to force itself in, but like an impatient knock.
Get out! Get out! Get out!
It terrified all of us. The inhumane screams, the polite pounding on the door. I started crying. I thought this was it, but Neil wasn't scared like the rest of us. He was pissed. He stood up, storming towards the door, screaming. He swung open the door, pointing the shotgun at whatever was on the other side, and pulled the trigger, filling all of our ears with the sound of the shotgun blast. Neil stood at the door, huffing. His body language was wanting to rip this thing apart. I stood up, looking past his arm, seeing nothing but the driveway and the road leading back to where we came from. He turned around, the adrenaline fading away and a shaky voice coming from his mouth.
We're not staying here. JD, call Katie, tell her to get ready to go back home when she gets back here.
The rest of the time, all of us were in the kitchen. The shotgun sat on the counter with several shells near the butt of the gun. None of us wanted to say anything. None of us wanted to even look at each other. It was nothing but silence until Katie called us. Neil quickly wrote a note, leaving it on the gun as we left. All of us hopped into the car, dead silent. Katie noticed our odd behavior and constantly egged us to tell her what had happened. She pouted and put her music on the radio to cheer us up. The only thing I could hear was the blood-curdling scream telling us to get out.
My girlfriend and I hike a lot. We also camp, fish and kayak. So being in a new area or environment is not usually a challenge or foreboding to me or her. I live in the countryside, and so did she at the time. So we get up and decide to go to a fairly well-known park to hike for the day, but ultimately decide to venture to a new spot. It's rainy and overcast all day, so we bring our rain gear and get to it. We head into the park area and check out the map, and notice that no one else is around, and it looks like as if the place has been empty for quite some time. Nobody prints on the ground and barely any litter or running water. We head down the trail and come to the main part of the park. There was a small canyon which we ventured down as far as possible, but then we decided to turn back as the rocks were very slick and we did not have the proper boots. I did bring a knife though, as usual. It should definitely be noted that the area stank. It smelled like an animal had died in the area. I checked for any animal, but nothing was near us. I didn't understand how such a foul odour could be emanating from seemingly nowhere, as this area was quite open. I felt uneasy from the get-go, to be honest, but I hadn't mentioned it because I wanted to come off as strong and confident to my girlfriend. Not only that, but I wanted to keep my confidence in order to hold my ground in case something actually were to show up. I had this sense of dread the entire way down the canyon and back up. It was when we were halfway back to the car that I noticed there were no sounds in the wood. It was raining, so there should be summer bugs calling, toads trying to find partners and birds communicating, but there was nothing but dead silence. She must have noticed it too, because then she asked me to play some music, which I happily did, and we continued walking to the car. I felt eyes on me the entire walk there, as well as a horrible sense of dread, like something was right over my head or in front of me, but I couldn't see it. I knew something bad was going to happen. Every part of me was tingling. I could feel the air getting heavy, but more like the entire atmosphere got heavy. We got to the car and hustled out of there. I asked her how she felt, and she replied with weird and scared. We left the forest as soon as possible, and I never took her back out there. I will never go back. I recently told this story to one of my friends, and my eyes started watering thinking about it. His girlfriend looked at me in horror and informed me that everything I had experienced were the telltale signs of a skinwalker. I'm not sure if I believe in them, but that situation was super creepy. Regardless of what was happening there, I'm just glad we made it back.
My mom and I were driving home after having dinner with friends and family. My aunt was driving in front of us and we were following her home since we lived pretty close. We reached a bend in the road and my aunt slowed down to a creeping pace, as if she saw something in the middle of the road. Caught in the glare of her headlights appeared to be a silhouette of a dog. At least that's what it looked like at first. After a few seconds, I recognized it to be something far more sinister. As the realization dawned on me, my mom was cooing at the thought of a lost puppy. "Aw, a cute doggy is up ahead." As the words fell out of her mouth, the silhouette began to morph. It became much taller than the average dog and unnaturally wide in the ribcage. Its hair was so long and matted, some pieces reached the ground in thick chunks. Even with the light, its fur was so jet black it blended in with the night. The only thing that stuck out in the darkness was its snarling grin and its huge yellow eyes. Before she could continue, I anxiously yelled, "That is not a dog!" Taken aback, she began to respond, "Yes, it is." But as the car crept closer, she got a better look. Then she saw how wrong she was. Oh my god, it isn't. As our car came to a dead stop behind my aunt's, it stared directly at us. Its gaze was so intense and gave us a sickening feeling. I stopped looking in its direction when I remembered hearing an urban legend about skinwalkers that said they could hear what you are thinking if it peers into your eyes. My aunt's car continued forward and we followed suit. As we passed by it, I turned my head to get a final look at it. It walked to the middle of the road, still staring after our car. Its gait was as if a human was on all fours, gangly and awkward. Its fur looked as if pelt was thrown over bones, loosely swaying with each step. After what felt like an eternity, we got home and immediately asked my aunt what she saw, but she was strangely quiet and denied knowing what we were talking about. Ever since that night, I've encountered what I believe to be a skinwalker a few more times. Once you've seen one with your own eyes, you'll never question if it is just an urban legend again.
Well, that was certainly terrifying, and now I definitely don't want to go camping in a log cabin. If you guys like this video, please give this video a big thumbs up, and then make sure to go over to Mortis Media's YouTube channel to check out the second part of this video. I hope you guys go over there and give him some rad family love, and if you're here from his channel, thank you for stopping by, and I hope you join the rad family as well. Until next time, keep up the radness, and I'll see you real soon. Bye!